This is the story of a girl named Hinako, the queen of mixed signals and the boss of confusion. Tapping over the phone, a handsome guy in the grassy green field looks to be much more magnificent as the wind blows his hair. Such godly features are so unreal and irresistible to scroll away, as the guy in spectacles complains about how tacky this new game is going. He surely feels like having a vacation just after playing this game. Probably because this just tested his eye's patience, and that is just about it. Looks like he is asking himself if these graphics are actually of this time, or if they are reintroducing the Stone Age again. Can't they just keep the dead? I denote dead and respect it. Putting the phone back inside, he believes that the producers have never disappointed him so far with their expectations, so he plans on giving one more itsy-bitsy chance, because our guy has his curiosity piqued, but this time he does not wish to die first. A toe dipped into the water. He wishes to take a closer look later. Knocking on a door felt more like whistling in a hurricane, so with a sigh, he went for a direct approach. Right there, the shoulder check. Seems like our otaku gamer guy has his expectations crushed into bits with a little less hope. Suddenly, a voice mumbles, exclaiming that the door is open on his way, so feel free to hop inside, as if someone is wrestling his way through the vacuum or something. Twisting the knob, he pushes himself in with a groan that echoes inside, unveiling the sight of a beautiful ray of sunshine gleaming on a gorgeous woman. Stretching her foot, she welcomes Akane wholeheartedly, while standing on one leg in her crop top and shorts. Not gonna lie, that scene could cheer up any flimsy nerd. Meet Hinako, the cutest girl closest to this guy. A gorgeous yaru with no personal boundaries whatsoever. Adding to that, she does a great job at being a motherly otaku high school student who apparently has a passionate, heart-wrenching tale coming her way. A love story, despite the constant obstacles, is going to be undeniably captivating. Announcing his arrival with his groceries, he seemingly has no idea what this girl is doing here, so he asks the reason for this pleasant surprise. One foot in the air, as she calls him silly enough not to figure it out by her stance. With an obvious expression, she then explains that by holding a yoga pose, which breaks away as her eyes stun while spotting ice cream. And honestly, this is one of those things that guys have no clue about, which makes the girl hop like a bunny on steroids when seeing ice cream. Excitement doesn't do her justice as she rushes for some ice cream, so Akane asks her to choose any she prefers. And honestly, his words hit her like a sugar rush before he could blink as the bugs got jealous. She is bouncing like a hyperactive Bugs Bunny. All of a sudden, this scope of happiness lands so nicely over there, as her eyes are jammed at the blue one. That's gotta be soda flavored. Smooth as ever, Akane passes her favorite ice cream in her direction, so she digs in with the same excitement of a 5-year-old discovering the candy jar. With a sigh, and a cheek puffed out from a giant mouthful of ice cream, Akane calls out Hinako, who cannot even mumble a yes like this. At this point, the girl's voice is muffled by this frozen treat, while she asks him if he needs something. He spots Hinako's face, which appears to be a sugar-fueled explosion, as she finally sucks the ice cream right in. Running a hand through her gorgeous hair, she looks at Akane with amazement when he asks her if she can dress rather properly. However, Akane couldn't help but grin at Hinako's ice-creamy face, so he asks if she minds trading this war-painted dress for a proper one while keeping in mind that this is not her turf. And most importantly, he would not want anyone mistaking her for a walking Sunday. A single bead of sweat slips down his face, as he musters up the courage to talk to this creature that definitely doesn't look very earthly right now. For a second, it seems like he chuckles, one heck of a time just decoding an ancient test, not a question about her clothes. Hinako squeaks with the most innocent mumbling, as she explains how she is practically living in these outfits all this time. Shoving his glasses right back up his nose, Akane gives out a strange chuckle, followed by the echoes of an awkward silence. Hence, he mumbles how he has been muttering this thing on a daily basis. She has the audacity to act all strange every other day. Moreover, he mentions that he would definitely prefer a change of scenery for her clothes. The royalty here does not mind. Like a lightning bolt, Hinako grabs his hand and pulls him even closer, as she is ever the whirlwind, leaving a trail of confusion in her wake. She shoots a sly and mischievous grin at Akane, and yanks him towards herself before he can blink a second time. Her grip over the headlock warms his neck, as the tension in the room gets all intense with the temperature skyrocketing. The room smells like ice cream as she stands mere inches away from him. while asking if he feels a little flustered having someone like her invade his property. His cheeks flush like a red apple, while his brain gets hit by the Pikachu-style thunderbolt faster. Hence, Akane finds himself looking like a fish out of water, completely astonished by Hinako's outright attempt to portray her boldness and confidence. With that, he quickly turns his gaze away from Hinako's mischievous, playful eyes as he tries to shake off her charm. Furthermore, this patient young man is a younger brother to his 3 years older sister. So let me tell a secret about Akane, as this super patient dude lives with his big sister, who, to be honest, is like the goddess walking on this sinful earth. Not only that, she is a little Ms. Perfect, a scary tyrant of taste who makes sure everything in her sight is tidy and organized just so. Though, damn sure nobody would believe, as Akane recalls her judging his fashion sense, since then like some French fashionista. Hard to live is a fashion disaster, baby, so your big sister has to style your wrecked life. Adding to that, he remembers the time he built a tiny pot as a sand castle, in comparison to his older sister coming up with a symmetrical palace out of sand. Talk about a perfectionista. Calling her a diamond in the rough, he feels proud having a sister with such an incredible sense of fashion, even if her size was equivalent to a rabbit. But there is more to this, as Akane explains how this perfect taste led her to attend her middle school. One day, coming back home from school, he enters home and gets stunned on his way in, and his jaw practically dangling on the floor as he sees her big sister chatting up with this dreamy girl beside her. His eyes surely popped out of those sockets and jabbed back in, as his sister called his attention. The cutest girl he has ever seen is standing before him when his sister introduces her best friend, Inako. Passing a rather warm smile that could even make Obito forget Rin's charm in no time, she shows her pleasure in meeting Asahi-kun for the first time. Though his big sister acts all surprised that she expected her to pass, Asahi is blazed by her presence, with sparkles in his eyes. Seems like even the most perfect beings are blessed in every way here. But don't get your hopes high, because that ain't happening in the real world at all. Flaws for everyone with different flavors. Though Akane is all lost in his thoughts and nostalgia, Hinako inches closer, has no clue what he is whimpering about. With his hands clasped together over his mouth, he mumbles about how Hinako is blessed with a face of goddess. Even with that, he believed she could model with such fine traits like all-natural long hair, curly eyelashes, big pupils that need no contacts. Moreover, with his small nose, slightly thick and well-maintained eyebrows, she definitely marks to be one of God's best creations. Not gonna lie, the sculptor did take his fine-ass time creating our Hinako-chan to be the goddess of this century. Whispering amen, Hinako calls his attention. Akane with a sullen face reminds him of having the same taste as his big sister Tsuko. Trying to pry his gaze away from peeking at her soft melons, he grabs her jacket's zip to move it up, as she asks what he is going on about. Thus he is about to leave, but Hinako's boredom is not letting this poor guy leave like that, as she pulls his shirt, so the cutest girl closest to him has a desire to play some Mario Kart. After some inspired 5-year-old style begging session to force Akane into submission for the 2 whole hours of Mario Kart, she somehow wins this round. Even with the huge pile of syllabus for tomorrow's test, he bets his 2 hours on the line to join Hinako's gaming power hour. Thoughts about the tests rampaging inside his mind as a bead of sweat slips down his face while playing the game. Suddenly, his gaze falls over the clock as he blurts out that it is already late. Hinako mentions his tummy gurgling up, as she is sure some mouse might have found their way in. Despite being late for study, Akane tells that he is going to cook something for them if she would like. And how can Hinako-chan, after some hectic gaming hour, decline such an offer, while some mice hopping inside her tummy? Chopping up the ingredients in the kitchen, Hinako follows him to the kitchen, asking what he is going to cook up this time. Her stomach rumbling as she marks ready for some udon smash, but he mentions that he is always down for whatever Hinako wishes to eat. Furthermore, Akane tells how he is craving for some serious udon action in his tummy, but he asks for her preference as well. A little confused, Hinako looks at Akane as if he has 3 heads hanging over his body. She asks the reason behind this. Thus he adds that his sister wouldn't let him have anything he picks due to her having the domination sickness. So the plan is, if Hinako mentions she asked for it, they might be able to get away with it. Seems like Akane remembers World War High with his sister while picking dinner. Letting her choose would turn her all rainbows. Otherwise, she does a great job being a blood-sucking vampire, ready to tear anyone's flesh apart. Talk about this sibling bond or more of a dictatorship. And honestly, Akane expresses his belief over this plan working while Hinako laughs at his brilliant attempt to launch a plan just to eat udon. Just then, a sudden buzz over her phone catches both their attention. With that, she shares how his big sister will be dining outside for this night. Guess she might have gotten lucky tonight. Good for Tsuko. So the crazy cop out of the way, Akane takes full advantage of the kitchen and comes up with some fine chilled udon. Moreover, he presents it with the eggplant, which is loathed with passion by none other than Tsuko, followed by some toppings. Though Hinako seems like diving headfirst as her mouth fills with water, so she clasps her hands to pay her gratitude. Devouring the udon over the table, Akane asks the reason behind her freestyle life when his big sister, the textbook nerd, is having a mental showdown with her hectic schedule. Mumbling through the mouthful of udon, she manages to utter something about his sister having sciences that is surely messing her up since the start, while she states about herself being in the liberal arts. Seems like some degrees let you breathe in the air and give some additional relaxing hours. This udon is a definite bomb, as it has gotten his mind immersed in nostalgia. So 2 years ago, his sister Tsuko decided to leave home to start living her life on her own. Though this isn't enough for this ultimate control freak, that she had to drag this super patient guy, Asahi, with her. For independent living, she tries to hack her way in this routine by pulling Akane in to keep him as a housekeeper. Turns out, she only needed a live-in butler to save some time to focus on her studies. Hence proved, science is a bit scary for everyone. That is when Hinako pitches in their life as Tsuko's college bestie because of their prime close location. She spends more time here than anywhere else. Since a long time, he is sure that between their textbooks and game nights, he has seen less of Tsuko and more of Hinako-chan. Peeking at Hinako slurping udon right down her throat, he believes her to be cut only for the model career from the beginning. Not gonna lie, I agree with this guy. Can't believe such looks are not serving the fashion magazine. Hinako-chan's fine edges would make the cover story every month, betting on that for sure. Well, looking at her personality, she rather proves to be clumsy as he observes her slurping her hair right in with noodles. This girl surely has no clue what self-awareness is. Anyway, snapping out of it, Akane asks the starving girl to dial down the wild ride as she is eating her hair with the noodles. On top of that, he suggests she ties her hair up to avoid this happening again. But this girl, Hinako, seems to prove herself as one laziest woman, so she asks him to do it by himself while handing him the hair strand. Looks like the rogue hair strand has started to join the noodle party with special guests like chilled udon. Didn't believe the hair strand would get Akane away from his unfinished bowl of udon. Oh well, who would dare miss the chance of tying Hinako's hair? Seriously, hoping it doesn't feel like a bird's nest, he gets closer to grab her hair to tie the strand. Quickly averting his gaze away, he flushes hot red as he accidentally peeks at her soft melons. Now this guy is blindly trying to tie her hair in a bun, but he manages to do a pretty good job as he observes her still rocking this messy look. Thus, she exclaims how Akane already has fine potential in being a really good husband. Smoothing her way back to the udon, huh? Afterward, washing the dishes later, a thought decides to cross his mind as he asks himself this hard question while scrubbing the dishes. Considering for a moment who would in his right mind have the nerve to say a no to this goddess, Hinako. Hence, Akane believes the girl's got a smile that could melt away even the rock. Not only that, with a face like hers, she could blast away 1,000 ships with a wink. Not gonna lie, she seems to be the Bo Hancock of this verse. One wink and the whole army is gonna go down. Any dude who dares walking away from such a fine piece of art is surely a fully grown retarded who has fried his brain cells for a chicken nugget. Seeing her as the walking ray of sunshine, the colors of rainbow, Akane finds himself again mumbling about her sister's friend. And this is the time for a reality check before he finds in the everlasting friend zone, which is more deadly than a cold shower. He reminds himself not to fall foolishly for her and ends this lovesick play for the night. Then she decides to call out for her shower time. A sudden surge of an idea pierces through her head as she slides her way towards Akane in creepiest way. Unbeknownst to her plan, Akane feels the creepy vibes of this room as the air alters strangely while he feels someone closing in on him. To his right, he looks at Hinako putting her chin over his shoulder as she passes a deadly stare that practically feels like an electricity charging in. Soon, the paranoia starts kicking in as his senses tingles. With that, She gets shooted by the strange hostile look as she reminds him not to peep after her. With that, she heads down to the bathroom, while bursting in laughter as she rushes there. Not gonna lie, my heart is not ready for this soul-sucking, heart-wrenching excitement. Though gotta admit, if this keeps up the same pace, he might be applying for the pacemaker transplant in the hospital, as his pea-sized heart ain't ready for such a thing. Akane is sure that this thing is never going to work out in this universe. Complaining how it is a bit too much for his dying heart, he wishes tranquility to be washed over his soul as he tries calming himself down. He calls for a mediation mode over his knees beside the kitchen with his head tucked down, as he is praying to the Lord above him. Dodging the thoughts about her being this close as cheese is with bread, he reminds himself of it never working out. Calling out to his crazy ideas to be erased right this instant, he focuses on engraving his mind about how this is the most impossible wish to have her. Cutting down the obvious ways, no matter how many, he believes that thing like that ain't going to work out. Recalling back in elementary school when Hinako was warming hugs to Ekin as he reminisced about his golden times. Though he remembers his sister demanding him to man up sometimes. But one thing that surely shook him that day, being within Urshit, he heard his sister demanding Hinako to shut it down whatever she was thinking about liking this guy. Thus he remembers him liking this cute guy like a younger brother and nothing else. She asks Soko not to get any wrong ideas, which is what Ekin has been trying to feed himself since that day. His hopes crush like marbles under the hydraulic press. Powdered into crumbs, he believes there is no way she would look at him the way he desires. Even though he pushes, he is afraid of being friends-on for life, which is much scarier than cold showers. Not only that, he believes that there is such a slimmer chance of it ever happening. But his hopes all come tearing down as he looks at her underwear. No girl, he believes, would give away her delicate laundry to some guy she even likes slightly. Poor guy. Welcome Ekin to the halls of the Friendzone Kingdom, where the throne sits for those with the least chance of getting with his goddess. It is time that Ekin gets his seat there, rightfully. Cursing his undying luck before the laundry machine, while separating the delicates, he hears his big sister yawn her way across him. Moreover, his luck seems to be drying out as she continues to sort laundry, especially the delicates and no less. This man has surely messed with the universe in some way to be trapped in such a cosmic joke. Ekin, a super patient dude, is sorting his sister's undergarments and separating them from her friend's undies who happens to be his first crush since forever. Talk about the tragedy that befalls him once in a while with a double dose of misery. On the other hand, Ekin complains of her sister trying to hide them like it as part of some top detective program. Who knew about the brutal play of life would look like this? Later, strolling down the street, while feeling defeated, he bumps into the familiar person who might be the reason behind his saddening look. Walking across Hinako, though Ekin's eyes might be blinding before her first crush, but definitely this guy has a vision of a megamind. Thus, she is rocking this lingerie look with a casual t-shirt, ripped jeans, and the whole cute vibe that always surrounds her. And honestly, his jaw deserves to be dropped as if dangling on the edge, as it is his first time he sees her in normal clothes. Exclaiming how he hasn't ever spotted her in this attire, gleaning with a smile, she asks if she is looking cute in this. With no second thoughts, Ekin slips with a heavy breath that she looks $1,000,000 cute. Somebody tells him that he is hanging on by a bit of a dramatic thread, and his demise is a promise if he keeps tagging along like this. But the man gotta take his chance, right? A little taken aback by the compliment of having 100 million points, but Ekin expresses how he finds simple as stunning. With Megamind's analysis, he figures the simplest clothes bring the best of the materials, so she finds her simply marvelous. And honestly, this look polishes her natural beauty even more. Anyway, she heads inside while following him and asks if he is already back from his part-time job. Not to mention, he had exams this week, so after chatting a bit, Inako suddenly asks how it went for his last exam. Heading ahead, he mentions his usual average way out of his exam. So out of nowhere, Inako showers him with a warm hug from the back for doing a good job. Moreover, seeing how he aces his exam, Inako wishes for his assistance like a study buddy. Sees like even goddesses need help with their homework. A bead of sweat washes over his face as he directs his face toward her. He mentions that even she scores a good grade. Inako seems to not be riding on this factor at all. Furthermore, she finally manages these grades because Suko runs a tight ship around her while forcing her through her Spartan tutoring. Talk about the control freak with a raging spirit who who cannot even let poor Inako go. Shivers down her spine as she recalls Suko's exact words that forgiveness won't come easy if she does not end up enrolling for the same college as her. Just like a true dictator, Akkun confirms her to be standing next to Hitler someday if her Spartan tutoring keeps this pace. Though Inako admits of forgetting most of what she learned, she only remembers Suko promising the Lord of getting an average A out of Inako's soul. Looks like poor Inako shivers with her thoughts of even remembering any of it. Munching on the crispy potato chips, her eyes twinkle upon looking at the K-pop group Akkun and Suko loves listening to. She finds the black-haired dude to be the cutest among them all. A bead of sweat slips down his face. He calls Hinako's attention right away, zooming out, clenching his trousers tight as Hinako's shoulder is rubbing against his own. She squishes against his body even more and turns to have a look at him with a little close-up while locking his arms around a ball-shaped cushion. However, he finds Hinako a little too close to his face, as to which this clumsy girl is ready to share some potato chips with Akkun, who gladly refuses having any. Not gonna lie, the poor Akkun finds himself in a bit of a crazy pickle, but is oblivious as does not have any idea what awaits him further. A bolt out of the blue, she gets a hold of him as he is about to stand up to get away from her. These guys are trying to role-play as Tom and Jerry in a parallel universe. Even so, Hinako grabs his shirt. She passes a deadly glare to Akkun's way while reminding him not to even think of getting away from her vicinity. Munching on the chips, she refuses to let go of his shirt, so with a losing battle, Akkun decides to accept his fate. Furthermore, he takes a long sigh and focuses on reminding himself of being her pet dog, and nothing else. Seems like this guy never runs out of his tranquility regime of calming himself down, just in case if Hinako is cooking up some shocking adventure, anyway with a sudden buzz over his phone. He blurts out that Suko will be dining outside again, as if she has adopted the bailing the night routine. With that, Akkun cooks up an idea to swoop away from her vicinity. He exclaims of fixing something up for their appetite. With a call to the food, Hinako jumps right back into her good girl behavior. He figures that his sister's uptight force has affected their poor Hinako. Scrubbing the dirt off of his hands, he peeks at Hinako immersed in the chatter of the TV, while still managing to look like the cutest girl closest to him. Setting the warm meal with the soup on the side over the table proves that Akkun's live and butler skills are the reason Suka cannot seem to let go of him. On the other hand, Hinako's eyes sparkling while her watery mouth has just dropped its jaw down the floor. Her excitement sure has no bounds because she cannot wait to taste the dish that seems to smell like it's straight out of a restaurant. And honestly, this guy's meditation program must have involved a master chef course, because the dude is rocking every test of proving to be the best husband. Hence, she excitedly cries out seeing hamburger steak ready before her, with a smoky hot aroma filling the air, which is making it even more irresistible for her to wait. So with a Japanese saying, "Itadakamasu," she pleasantly tastes it, but he knows she would rather dive head first in the bowl. As she chews her second bite, Akkun mentions that her having a bad day deserves this little treat for sure. That is enough to jolt Hinako on her spot, as she becomes rock solid. And honestly, it looks easy spotting such a sad cloud dimming the light of a face like that. So she asks if it is way too easy to read her face, though he admits it does not look like that. Amazed by seeing his observational skills, she tells him that it is rather uncool of her to scatter all her emotions over the field like marbles. With that, she mentions she feels totally fine, though it looks to Akkun that she is either convincing herself or him that she is fine. But he picks out her usual habit of sliding through every bad phase of her life by putting it in a "I am totally fine" bucket. So he yells at her that one of these days that bucket is either going to leak or explode on her face as a smack for not accepting her feelings. So he makes sure she gets it through her head that he is aware of her not being fine at all, even with whatever she says. Taken aback by his stance over her pitiful way to run away from her misery, she finds herself embarrassed with a mix of sheer frustration and shock. Although she cannot seem to process being caught like this red-handed, so she had pretty much the gist of how the thieves go through. Looking down, she desperately finds any means to jumpstart the conversation without bursting into cries. Mustering up the courage, Hinako expresses that she likes herself, which is a good thing on her part, though she is proving to the master of confusion and misleading, because Akkun is shocked through his spine while seeing her take on this conversation. But she mentions if she didn't look the way she is now, could it be possible for her to say the same thing about herself? Maybe that is the only way the people would stop misunderstanding her and see for who she is, not how she looks. With that aside, she will finally be able to mingle with the other girlies and do the stuff together, rather than shopping out all alone, while noticing young girls laughing on some of their inside jokes. Then she suddenly bursts with an awkward laughter to drive the tension away from this room, so as not to inconvenience Hakan. She expresses her fault for being such a blabbermouth. A bolt out of the blue, Hakan grips her arm, while gazing inside her soul through her eyes. He states that the beauty she has is the ultimate justice to this world. Make drop. Dumbfounded by this new take about her problems, Hakan decides to rumble his analysis to Hinako about her. Starting from praising her all perfectly sized proportions of the body, placed with the all-natural legs and arms, holding her shoulders to make her feel the way he does. He adds that her all-natural long wavy and soft hair is inexplicable when it comes to putting words down. Just because the mere words of the uncultured masses cannot possibly fathom the true beauty before them, is just because they are far out of reach from it. Not to mention if there are any flaws or lacking. Even a tiny bit could not outshine her in any way to be a negative factor. Furthermore, Hakan makes sure she understands that the pitiful losers who talk shit behind her back about this beauty are just fools. So with a thud over her shoulder, he explains how it will never be her fault for being this beautiful, and it will never dim anything that makes her who she is. Not gonna lie, man just delivered a 30-minute lecture into 3 minutes with that fast tongue refusing to slip at any moment. Let's just hope it has passed through her brain. If not, we still have Mario Kart to suck the aggression out of her body. Besides, Hinako seems to be dumbfounded on her knees, who just feels rather shocked to hear Hakan use such words for herself. Moreover, he asks her if any of that hurts her. Then she has a right to get angry at them, so she exclaims of getting angry at her place. Hinako is blown away as she did not see this all coming at her. To top it all off, Hakan is finding every possible way to boost her morale right back in its place. He reminds her about the time of her 3rd year when someone burdened her with accusations of ogling their boyfriend. So he tells how his younger self went his way out to the shrine to pray that the girl fails her exams. And most importantly, that guy who got mad at Hinako for rejecting his ass gets his pinky toe stubbed brutally. Although he mentions wishing for something rather different for them at this age. But she gets the idea. Hakan chuckles while telling this story, as he mentions that he has no clue if it ever had any effect in their life. All of a sudden, Hinako jumps right on top of Hakan, flooring him to the ground. She catches him off guard in the warmest hug of all time, as he didn't see that coming. With the dangling spectacles over his nose, there goes another time in the list when she threw herself at him just to treat him like a dog. But this dude did not see the kiss on the cheek coming at him, as the room settles down with a high temperature. His eyes widen with shock. He suddenly drops his jaw to the floor while screaming on top of his lungs. With that, he yells out about it going out of the line even for her. Thus, it gets clearer for him after he shakes the feeling off and calms his breath. But his gaze pressed the other way as he finds Hinako strangely sweaty and confused. Suddenly, flashing before his eyes, she stands up yelling about how he took it in the wrong way, while being embarrassed. Stammering with such beads of sweat slipping her smooth skin, she expresses of getting a little too happy. So just forget about it. Without a doubt, Hakan is dumbfounded as he only sees himself being treated the way like a dog. Whilst he cannot process why she is blabbering about it, this dumb-headed guy leaves the sweaty, stammering Hinako to fetch some strawberries for her like a good dog. However, she feels to be on the verge of anger and cry, but she has no idea which emotion to show first. Afterward, a sudden turn on the knob shows Suko finally arriving home, as she hears the commotion around the house. Hinako complains to this idiot as to why he is not even a little embarrassed about this situation. Bursting into tears, she spots Suko, who demands to know the reason behind her beloved Hinako's cry. Not gonna lie, this poor guy seriously needs some insight here. Can't process if he has broken some secret girl code or something. If anyone could help a brother out before his sister chop him into fine pieces. Calling out to his big sister, Hakan justifies himself of being utterly clueless about what he did to upset Hinako-chan. So imagine this, he is strolling down the corridor, lost in his daydream about this goddess when he discovers her mail strangely mixed with theirs. Even though Hinako does not seem to be living near here at all, her mail surely reaches this address, so he finds this to be not a coincidence at all. Talk about a lucky break. Looking over the mail, which includes some pamphlets of his big sister and Suko's envelope, he holds Hinako's mail delivery in his hand. Reaching the door, he twists the doorknob, but he gets taken aback by the sudden pull of the door that shakes him off. As the door swings open like a poltergeist is living through this thin piece of cardboard, suddenly, Hinako-chan welcomes Hakan home. Hakan reminds himself that Suko's BFF, Hinako, has taken residence in their home, and she cheerfully welcomes him inside. Turns out it is Hinako, who is rocking a super cute hoodie today. Gotta say, seeing this gorgeous creature's face just makes Hakan's day better while filling it with rays of sunshine. Upon entering, Hinako cheerfully asks if her pulling the door suddenly stunned him to his wits because he heard him unlocking as she was passing by. As contentant washes over his face, he exclaims of having such fine luck on seeing a good-looking face like that. And honestly, Hakan almost gave away his girly shriek, so he declared his arrival as if he had won the lottery. Later inside, Hinako playfully asks if the door almost gave him a mini heart attack. Stammering a bit while catching his breath, he hands her the mail right away. This woman is just dancing with some of her happy moves to celebrate getting her mail delivery. Gladly, she exclaims about getting her book delivered, but Hakan reminds him to deliver mail at her own house. But the catch is Hakan mentions to this girl a gazillion times to dress rather appropriately at their place. Thus he takes a deep breath and figures to be the voice of reason for her. A bead of sweat slips down his face as he musters up the courage to say something that bears some weight. Reminding about their clothing discussion the other day, when he clearly mentions wearing something proper, she spins around like she is on some kind of Broadway show. Hinako spins as if on a runway, all proud of herself and her fashion sense while announcing that she is totally wrapped. But Hakan cannot stop himself from eyeing down her hoodie as she stands without any pants. Looks like having a wardrobe malfunction is a real disaster while happening under that hoodie. Before he can even try to process this scene, Hinako suddenly becomes all flirty and leans in real close as she asks Hakan if he would like to see the wonders underneath her hoodie. His jaw drops hard on the floor, faster than a bad habit, as he continually screams at the top of his lungs when they see Hinako lifting her hoodie to reveal her shorts instantly. Thus she starts cracking up while bursting over her lungs, as she believes to have flustered him with a sudden shock over the door and now with her alluring charm. Running ahead, while she mentions making him blush instantly, seeing Hinako's smile surely melts Hakan down faster than ice cream on a hot day. He fumes in a rage filled with embarrassment as his head becomes all smoky with a red face. Hinako runs away, claiming she made the poor guy blush and got his hopes all high. While getting a bit sweaty, she turns around to peek at his sullen face, which lights up when the pretty face turns to him again. To top it all off, Hakan believes that Suko's friend, Hinako, is like a walking talking disaster zone for his teenage hormones. Hakan believes his sister's BFF to be a danger to his adolescent self. Also, he is pretty damn sure that he has already discovered her major crush on his sister's BFF, Hinako, which is about as useless as a chocolate teapot, to develop a one-sided feudal love for her. He recalls the time when his one-sided love was crushed into crumbs once before about 2 years ago, as if someone wrestled his heart with a smackdown. Seeing his short-haired sister jabbing some sense into the clumsy-headed Hinako, she asks her to stop feeling that way about him, as he is a man as well. Hesitantly, Hinako nods away while admitting him being really cute, but she assures Suko that he sees him like a younger brother. That day, Hakan heard something shatter in a far more excruciating way than glass. Chuckling on his misery, he is pretty damn sure about her not knowing about any of these feelings he has bottled up for her all these years. This is why he has developed spiritual awakening and a medication mode to fight through this ordeal. With a sullen face, he muffles his voice of spiritual awakening to himself as Hinako-chan asks if he would like a cup of hot chocolate. Brushing aside his wrinkles, he asks her to whip a cup for him. Something catches his attention over the messy table with a laptop aside, including some papers and pens. He asks Hinako as she is studying. Thus, relaxing right on her couch, she mentions some report she has to turn in tomorrow somehow. As he is about to sit there, suddenly Hinako comes right up to ask if he would like to watch TV. Then he can definitely move around her stuff to have a good view, which is feasible for his comfort. Catching him off guard, he stammers that he too is thinking of studying soon anyway in his room. And honestly, this poor guy cannot seem to catch a break, as it seems to be his third time working up to study. She is taken aback by how much he works up over studying. With that aside, she mutters her test is over, but she definitely has shit ton of mock exams bulldozing their way next month. Holding the hot cup of chocolate, she stutters at him being so studious, while she exclaims him of being Suko's brother anyway, right in her footsteps. While putting aside his hot cup on the table, she cheerfully asks him to study with her right here. Moreover, she mentions reading a bunch of books like a quiet kid with no mischief-managed play, while not coming in his way whatsoever. Tucking his specs back, he sips his hot chocolate while accepting her invitation to study together, as she is fine with it. Scribbling away some important formulas, Hinako is reading as quietly as possible, lost in her own thoughts. However, Akin is sitting down at the table trying to solve the equations set aside for him. Even though there is nothing but silence in this room, Akin still cannot manage to focus deeply on his books as he keeps peeking at the back. Looks like this guy's spiritual awakening is wearing down its barriers with time, as his body seems to be developing some top-notch immunity. Since after that kiss, his temptation is reining him like a horse ready for the wild ride. Turning around again and again to see how she is reading so quietly, he cannot fathom how incredibly gorgeous her face is while she reads. All of a sudden, she catches him peeking at her, that jolts an electric shock right up his ass. Flustered up, with flush red cheeks, she forgets how to speak as Hinako asks what is going on. His startling jump almost knocked his specs out of his face, as his peeking operation came to an end with a drastic failure. After a few seconds, he is aware now how she gets submerged in reading books, as if she really loves doing that. Thus, she shares her difficulty in reading with a hard focus range in such a crowded campus, filled with even bigger distractions every step of the way. Not to mention, people's unwanted stares do not leave her alone, so she feels comfortable at home immersed in books. But he refuses to accept such a reason, so Akum asks what is the real reason behind this ordeal. On top of that, he pictures her having a heck of a free time between her lectures, because it is liberal arts. Call for freedom. Dumping down her face, she clarifies how a face like hers doesn't fit the category of a nerdy book girl. Finding any interest in reading books does not fit her character, according to the students there. She recalls one judging as if Hinako is mulling over some romantic novel or something, whereas the other guys belittle her reading while exclaiming it downgrades her reputation. Hence, she explains how she is degraded if someone finds her with a book. Hinako is seemingly tired of explaining her way through those brain retards every damn time, so she just thought to go with the flow. So she stops showing herself as the Belle from Beauty and the Beast, who craves hiding in the pile of books rather than explaining her ways to the world. Besides, she believes that the books might not be doing any magic for her because she looks like a sworn idiot anyway. All of a sudden, Akum refuses to accept this as the truth, which she does not see coming. Recalling how he strolls quietly down the library around books, he finds the compulsory reading that is required sucks in many different ways. Though, he believes in not ever attending a public library in his lifetime before. But he spots a strange goddess-like girl, submerged in reading over the table so quietly that even her breath reeks of silence. Noticing her even more, the dots click right away as Akum believes her to be his sister's BFF. Hinako-chan, blessed with an unearthly goddess-like face staring at some book, could be a dream come true for every nerd out there. This surely is rather heavenly for a man like Akum, who cannot seem to pry his gaze away from her face. That day his crush on his sisters got even more deep. Reminiscing about the old times, he yells out at her that it is not true that the books make her look like an idiot. He exclaims how the first time he ever felt. Suddenly, he gets muted by his brain while signaling it's not the right time for this guy to confess his centuries-long feelings. It takes a few seconds for him to save his ass, as he exclaims feeling for the first time that she is a profoundly admirable person. Dumbfoundedly waiting for Akum to clarify, if Sokka was here, he would have been done for his life. A sister sharp like that could see through his shattering confession all the way when the clumsy master of confusion seems to have no clue whatsoever. Focusing on the admirable part, he mentions it is since the time he started reading manga. So Akum cleans his almost obliterated slate by mentioning how it is admirable for her to read to the point of reaching into a library corner. Hiding his breathless voice over a fake cough, he is glad to score such a save. Hinako-chan finds him a bit weird admiring such a little thing like this. Hence she expresses her reading because she likes doing it. But bleeding through his nose, Akum screams over his lungs while saying, "It is admirable." Conning himself down with his spiritual awakening, he figures that Hinako-chan is too kind for this world, which he even believes blurred out of nowhere. She is blown away, while Akum says that talking about how reading does not suit anyone or anything is unethical even for library standards. Not to mention, it is one rude thing to tease someone with this, as anyone would get their heads rather boiled or get uncomfortable reading in their free space. However, he scolds her for letting the retards like that go, and trying to improve herself due to this is an inspiring action. Hinako hesitantly mentions him as taking things too seriously now, while she just desires that people would quit telling the same thing over and over again. But she cannot seem to forget how he told her that she is kind. And honestly, he asks why hide away when you can embrace reading books for enjoyment any day regardless of what some loafers have to say. More importantly, with a cheerful warm smile, he cries out that he likes that part of Hinako-chan that continues not to give up. Out of the blue, he snatches her book right away, asking for a second thought about what she is reading this time anyway. With that, she reads it to be Hike Monogatari, which is a collection of stories of battle between two clans in ancient Japan. It looks to be some sort of like that epic battle of Gilgamesh for Japan. She bumps her marshmallow cheeks as she turns fleshy red tomato, thinking if someone bathes her with a tint. She drips down her mouth, hiding the face over her hair, as Akum complains about not handling ancient literature that well. Moreover, he asks if Hinako-chan's liberal arts gives her an opportunity to major in Japan's ancient literature. Though Hinako, with a sullen face, is mumbling about hoping he really did mean anything, or it is just her head imaging stuff. After a few seconds, Akum looks over there while he asks the reason behind this damsel in distress. Out of the blue, if she yells so loud about him rushing right back this instant to study, she shares it being nothing. Akum remembers he has a bit of homework piling up with his hot chocolate waiting to be sipped by him, including some snacks on the side. Afterward, Hinako shares her memory of being confronted about seeming to enjoy reading books once before. So he asks if it happens to be his older sister, Seiko, and he explains it was his sister all along. Pouting with a pen in his mouth, Hinako tells the tale of them in their second year, middle school in the same first class. Sitting alone over her desk, Hinako notices some girls gossiping nearby her, when suddenly a black-haired woman stomps her desk for attention. Looking like a ray of sunshine in her life, Seiko barges right in while saying how Hinako seems to be enjoying reading that book. Not gonna lie, Akum's sister has better moves tucked in her sleeve to take away any girl or any man right off his nose. Catching Hinako off guard with that captivating gaze settles before her, so her presence is enough to make her feel content. This guy might need to turn his notebook around to scratch some notes from his big sister's playbook. Talk about the ultra level of flirting. Holding his smoky head of shame, he is having a hard time imagining his elder sister being so assertive just like that. As he screams her name inside his empty head, Hinako continues to express how her heart lost some beats and did a super skip back then. Hence, Hinako-chan is having a peaceful time recalling the good days when she stumbles upon Akum's elder sister, Seiko. That day, luck happened to be on her side when she crossed paths with a sharp genius like Seiko. Out of the blue, she spots his younger brother with Hinako whispering about such a heady conversation. Coming from behind, like a dictator, she asks what they are talking about at this hour while avoiding their every attempt to study. Jolts right back in his seat, and he is glad to share his elder sister with someone like Hinako. Taken aback by the sudden and surprising arrival of Seiko, Hinako exclaims how they agree on the fact that Seiko happens to be such a super cool person. However, she expresses her gratitude for calling out the obvious as she finds herself being the most super cool girl in their house. With that aside, his elder sister asks the reason behind such a sulking face dripping down over the corner. However, he tries brushing his mind while recalling if he has ever said that he likes her to her bare face. But his poor soul realizes too late, as nothing can save his ass from this ordeal. Entering the scene to meet this guy, Asahi, the man around here who is a crazily famous dude of his class. Asahi, aka Akin, is chilling in his class, being lost in the world of manga, when this girl pops up right from his back. With such an insane question about idols, as if she believes Akin to know about some K-pop media's guys. But who knew this guy, Akin would actually be fully aware of the media's hits. Upon hearing if he watched media's of music video, Akin tells her that he watched every bit of the video which he could do for eternity. A definite jam to beyond repeat worthy. However, JM's visual graphics, the main vocalist of the media's group, happens to give away such a mouth-dropping performance. That guy is out of this world with his insane vocals, of course. Though the girls notice Akin believes him in totally getting them all, looks like these two are hardcore fans of the medias. After a while, the door of the classroom slides open suddenly, and another dude with a notebook enters the scene. Looks like the dramatic flair seems to level up with each scene, but what's going to set aside everything else is the surprise coming up next. So he asks the first dude if his eyes can locate Asahi Igarashi, who is smashed like a sandwich between the girls. Pointing in the right direction up ahead when he is looking for yours truly, Asahi Igarashi handed his notebook over. Akin is surrounded by the swarm of girls that is literally packing his every direction tightly. However, this notebook guy is stunned to his core as he always finds Akin to be in the center of girls, and he cannot seem to crack his code to attain this feature for himself. Though this notebook guy stuns as if he has seen a ghost, the desk guy adds that this guy seemingly has a heart of steel if he can survive this hell. All of a sudden, the notebook guy barges in their meeting. He mutters awkwardly about him never getting the same pass as Akin, asking them to cut some slack his way and let him join in, but the short-haired girl doesn't buy his crap, so she commands him to get lost. The notebook guy thanks Akin for lending him his notebook during his desperate times, but the girls refuse to give away any second glance his way. He starts to whine like a desperate 5-year-old for some candy and wishes to get special treatment after stubbing his pinky toe. Gotta admit that it is damn funny when a grown-ass man does it. Not gonna lie, that is just another day in the life of his friendly neighborhood Akin, surrounded by his fangirls while trying to keep it cool. Having a glimpse into the life of his true self, Akin, the intentional heartthrob, whom the girl believes has a thing that sets him apart from every other guy in the class. To top it all off, the girl adds that Akin never muscles his way into a meeting where he has no invitation. Thus, the short-haired girl comes up with the shortest explanation to throw on this notebook guy's face as she exclaims Akin of being like a girl. A bead of sweat slips down his face as Akin worries about his gender health if this rumor spreads outside, which looks promising enough like a wildfire. Thus, Akin makes sure the notebook guy hears that he is a man with adequate knowledge about idols. Out of the blue, another girl asks Akin to lend his mind to her, by asking him to spare some seconds her way as well about the club tomorrow. Bidding farewell to the other girls whom he promises to see another day, the notebook guy gets all flustered and irritated by seeing such popularity. He asks the reason for his having immense know-how about K-pop idols and the following trends. That is when this notebook guy asks the real question as to what sets him aside. He mentions having an older sister as well, but he only just gets delicious cooking, but one must be grateful as always. As the desk guy joins the gang to gossip about Akin, the notebook guy cries out giving his heart on becoming the encyclopedia like him that would be fawned over as well. But the girl believes that these knuckle-headed losers do not get the gist of Akin, so she begins to drop the secret about Asahi being welcomed in any girl's group. The reason behind Akin's comfort zone is because of him having zero intentions like that, so this way he manages to score nicely. But to his surprise, the notebook guy declines the existence of such an entity amidst him. Talking about how this is high schoolers, Akin can hear the heated commotion from here. Unbeknownst to him, the other supports sway in the commotion, not gonna lie. Having such a crowd knelting beside him in every possible direction might make 2 or 3 names slip out of his mind. Don't forget the time of his legendary moments entering the first year since the start. The bell rings while the notebook guy cannot seem to process such casual free service, though the desk guy couldn't care less as he wishes to snap right inside the club. A sudden hustle and commotion set aside the West High's cultural festival, as people are busy as bees getting their hands over anything that they get close to. Who knows that the strange footsteps over the corridors will catch everyone's eyes while keeping them rock solid in their position. Looks like this audience seems to have seen a ghost, even when she took away the obvious, with the whispers around the town as a woman asks for the whereabouts of Akin in the cafe. Not gonna lie, Akin's peak popularity has already shocked most of the men around the campus, while sending some of them to hospital. Waving away to Akin, who is serving a juice over the table, the shivers run down his spine as he finds his big sister and Hinako tagging along here. They wish to greet their little guy, while Akin is blown away by the rest of the school. With such a cute fashion commitment, besides black jeans and a black purse, Saka wears one long-ass top. This girl, So, reminds this notebook guy of being so absent-minded that he even missed the time when Akin suddenly got famous for being the guy with flowers in each hand. Not to mention she talks with the evidence in her hands, as she shows the picture of his big sister and his sister's friends side by side. And honestly, this picture has been scattered all around the school by girls, and maybe even outside. Though the notebook guy yells in surprise about a man like Akin being so lucky, while having the title of the man with flowers in each hand. Though he cries out of it being so lame, but he refuses to avert his gaze away from Hinako and Saka's photo as if drooling over Akin's fate. That is when he asks the real question as to what this all explains about his hidden secret that sets him apart. While the desk guy whispers about the dark-haired being excruciatingly pretty, so make sure to tell them about Asahi's sister Saka and his friend Hinako. As she is about to blurt the secret out, Akin catches up to them again right away, while asking what they are gossiping about. A sudden silence fills the air around them as they scan Akin coming right to them, while all of them start cooking up their own version of the story to fit the narrative. After a few seconds pass, the notebook guy states that they are chit-chatting about the girl he likes. Suddenly, the jaw drops to the floor as the sweat washes over the poor guy's face, who thinks he is living his secret love life all by himself. The terror and shock fill his eyes as the gasps escape his lips. Moreover, he mentions it being one-sided love since middle school with his sister's friend, Inako. Shuckling in embarrassment, he screams while thinking who the heck spilled his beans, or he just read his love life out loud while dozing off like a sloth. Needless to say, the notebook guy confronts him about having the hots for his sister's BFF, as he might be really into good-looking girls. Taken aback by standing at the pedestal, as these guys try to dig even more out of the poor Akin. Looks as if this poor guy, drenching in sweat, has taken a dive inside the nearby pond, or saved a pet from drowning. 'Cause this much of a wet situation doesn't come this easy at all. The notebook guy sure seems to have no bounds in his interrogation mode as he asks Akin what he likes most about Inako while hinting at her soft melons. Jolting right off his feet with such a freestyle interrogation, he hesitantly stammers when mentioning her face. But to their surprise, Akin has memorized the book about Hinako that suggests she is one heavenly package that has it all naturally. His rumbling stays for some minutes when he dives deep into his analysis while he makes sure everyone knows his side of the story. The blabber-jabber continues for a few more minutes, as his have already long gone, lost in their thoughts. Though his but is louder than anything else that catches everyone off guard, so he explains how he likes her for her, and not for her pretty face. This part took more courage than facing a dragon in a dark cave. Akin finally accepts his feelings for Hinako in front of his classmates, for who she is. And honestly, she is a dazzling charmer, but it is not about her gorgeous, unruffly features that stole away Akin's heart. Well, everything else on the table, her kind personality and her master of confusion with a dash full of clumsiness aside, she is the whole package, seeing sweat dripping down his cheek, as if a rainy cloud has booked his head spot for the day. Akin takes a long sigh. He feels like it wasn't that easy like a walk in the park. But the weird thing is that since he got it all out of his system, he rather feels lighter than ever. A hint of pique is marked on his cheeks, which could be the post-confession glow, as the weight has finally been lifted to some degree. But the only thing remaining is to deliver the same burst of emotions to his sister's friend, who is still in a dark place. Seeing him all flustered, they chatter in whispers about Akin's flushed, hot, and bothered face, as the desk guy takes a sigh, knowing that today's youth has still some of this species left. While reminding them about their club meetings, he flashes a grin their way when the girl notices the crazy hustle outside. Together they take a look down the field, where a sudden jolt shakes Akin enough. Suddenly, he vanishes quicker than a magician's rabbit, disappearing before Soai's gaze catches up to him. Who would have known the field's air has gotten a little more flowery with the presence of Hinako and her friend, who is high on nostalgia. Diving into some grade-A awkwardness, when Hinako is strolling with her friend through this co-ed school. The atmosphere seems to get a little thicker with each passing minute. But Hinako looks like she would rather be stuck in a dragon's lair rather than here, practically ready to flash away from this scene any minute if her friend gets on board. However, her friend teases her about wanting to go check out the co-ed school, and she wants to run away just when they get here, as if she is being kidnapped and forced into this, while Hinako startles about not ever mentioning wanting to come here. But the liars are the ones with sweaty palms, shifty eyes, and nervous jitters. Well, mostly, and honestly her yearning eyes are looking for someone or something since they entered this field, as if pretending to be on a top-secret mission. This seems to get entertaining every second. Later, her friend whines about her little sister's love life, as the sister mentions having a thing for a guy, but not wanting to go out with him. Sighing over the table with Hinako, he finds high schoolers be creatures from another world who don't make sense. Not to mention asking for advice from someone who spent the fine school years in an all-girls school unlike this. Moreover, she finds it rather tricky to tell the opposite sex that you like them. With a sudden horrific face, Hinako gets mere inches closer to her friend, just to tell her to dial down a bit because she is scaring the crap out of her. Settling back down, she flashes back to her memories with Akin while battling with the butterflies in her tummy. She expresses that she has no words to explain this. Like the thing is such and such, so and so. Her friend cries out about how Hinako starts telling a bittersweet story, which is sort of like the high school's mess. With a thud to the table, Hinako yells that it isn't like that but somehow like love for the family for sure. With the next breath, she cries out about how the guy must have anemia because it is unbelievable to see him not blush when handling her undies in the wash. Furthermore, she expresses doing a lot but nothing seems to work in her favor, so she believes it might have to do something with this co-ed school. Her friend then hits the spot as she asks if he is too used to the presence of girls around him. She assures her that being in co-ed doesn't mean he would interact with girls that much. But on second thought, she remembers Tsukiko having the most chocolate award at school during Valentine's Day, which makes sense. Hinako assures herself that Akin is not like that at all, but her friend is fixated on the seeing is believing theory. Catching up to her, she is snapping some sense in her friend about desiring an outward perspective on this. While pulling her shirt, she yells how she runs off like that, leaving her behind, but suddenly a familiar voice calls out to Hinako. Breathless Akin finally catches up to Hinako. While both parties are stunned at seeing each other, her friend is cooking something up. Before she utters a word, Hinako explains how her friend had a desire to meet Tsukiko's little bro. With that, she asks if he would like to go home now. As he is ready, he gets snatched right back. Some girls catch up to him with a hidden agenda or something and take him away from Hinako, hurling around him, each having her question that is revolving around Hinako and his sister. Bewitched by their super cool presence, they are practically dying to get their photos and SNS, while some of them whisper about their thin waist and such long legs. Talk about some serious fangirl energy crackling within the air. On the other hand, Hinako is stunned on the spot, oblivious to knowing what's causing that ruckus over there. Bless her pure heart, who does seem to be in blazing fire, as she has no clue what's taking Akin so long. This chaos is making our favorite girl Hinako-chan stand there in a killer style like a deer caught in headlights, while her friend is stretching the obvious as Akin seems quite popular in this school. Just like she predicted, she calls him a Dan smooth operator like his big sister. Who would have known that Hinako's charming allure would bewitch Akin enough to make him a heartthrob overnight? However, her friend praises Akin for inheriting the family charm, just like his big sister. Having no sound, she turns around to see if Hinako is still breathing, but she jolts away looking at her. Hinako prides his gaze at Akin, who is inches closer to a girl. He is assuring her about something, and a sudden ground-shattering call to attention makes Akin's bones shiver as he hears Hinako calling him Asahi. The horrific gaze of Hinako sent chills down his spine as his eyes widened in shock to hear his first name called out by her for the first time. Not gonna lie, it is pretty obvious to spot Akin's tiny brain cells melting away within nanoseconds. The voice of Hindako has just hijacked his brain while shocking his neural network in a jammed mess. Seems like this poor guy will be needing a reboot, followed by some chilled udon to recover back safely from this incident. With a cold gaze, she makes it clear that they are going home right this instant. The whole field is frozen in fear and amazement, while Akin flashes away to Hinaki's side with a series of apologies. Her friend is rather amused when enjoying this chaotic scenario, trying to hold her laughter inside. It looks like the scene unfolds before everyone's eyes, and it is good for goofy guys like them to have some evidence when Soai explains this even further. With the whole school gossiping about this, Soai asks if they get it now because it seems rather obvious. That is why the girls around the school find it easy to hang around Akin, since this poor guy is still hung up on his first love. This is the reason he is practically harmless to anyone else. Walking back home, Akin cannot process his thoughts after hearing Hinako use his first name. His eyes are wide as saucers with his face beaded with sweat, and he finds himself speechless on the way home. Looks like the poor guy is having an error with his mental technicality skills. By just hearing his first name Hinako, his thoughts are jumbled as if stuck in an ancient printer. Some of the Childudon might snap him out of this starstruck phase. On the other hand, Hinako has a dry mouth as she is stunned to move her head up. Her hair is doing justice to hide her sweaty face because she too is seeing stars in the daylight. Sweaty palms and wide eyes struck over the ground. She battled with her thoughts and the leftover butterflies, while her friend is enjoying this rather comical silence and thriving in this sweaty tension in the air, which gets more intense by the minute. Both of them are floored while sweating bullets, but Hinako looks rather pale, like a ghost just possessing her body. Clenching her face, her jaw dangles on the floor as she cannot believe pulling something like this. Blown away, she is screaming inside that she has gone and done it now. Besides her, Hakone is pretty close to solving this case, as he thinks he might have experienced a live example of jealousy. No wonder an angry Hinako-chan still looks pretty, but her nervous jitters make her even more cute. Thrown in the loop, she cannot help but think about how she finally manages to mess up really badly. Thus she is mortified while turning red as a tomato with her cheeks burning on the side. Walking on eggshells together, they both have their stomach doing flips, or is it the butterflies that multiplied in their stomach? Not to mention it is not only them, but the audience behind them, who also have their jaws dropped to the floor. He asks himself if he is dreaming because he too cannot grasp the fact that Hinako just called him by his first name. Not gonna lie, things just got a little fired up for our boy Hakone and his sister's friend Hinako, walking through the field as if they are on a runaway. The next day starts with a picture-perfect morning with fluffy clouds and blue sky, and the whole aesthetically pleasing scene set outside. But Hakone and Hinako seem to be chilling at home with their lazy asses over the couch. These days, Hinako-chan and Hakone seem to be living together as lazily as possible, while Tsuko has basically become a night owl. Turns out this girl is having a major case of aquarium fever suddenly because she wants to pat the dolphin as well. Hinako is practically daydreaming about how she would play with the fishes when she reaches the aquarium, while wondering the idea of seeing jellyfishes, octopuses, and everything else belonging to the whole underwater mania. Sulking over the table, she is desperately mumbling about how she wishes to feed the fish, play with the dolphin, and experience aquatic life through her eyes. Suddenly, Hakone gets to the obvious. As being the helpful dude cutting to the chase, he suggests she should just go then. Knowing the opportunity has arrived, he suggests she head to the aquarium right away. But guess what is coming his way? Hinako, this girl throws a fastball at his side, as she demands Hakone to come with her as well. With a sudden glance to his side, she commands him to prepare for an outdoorsy evening because they are about to dive into this aquatic journey together. Leaving him rather shocked and confused over the couch, he did not see that coming. Hold up, a thunderous bolt jump starts his neural cells as he asks himself if that counts to be a date. Thus, he is aware of never going out solo with Hinako before, except at the local convenience store. Connecting the dots together about going out alone with just the two of them together, his brain backflips, calling this a win-win situation. His head is on a merry-go-round, faster than a hamster on a wheel. With an adorable gaze and puckered lips, he cannot resist her irresistible charm with this adorable puppy dog look, and asks if Hakone's down for some fun. He stammers that he cannot just put on anything for this event. Not gonna like, it is rather unexpected for a guy like Hakone to be this dramatic for a fashion emergency like that. After a few seconds, he laid down the truth about him never wearing anything aside from his school uniform. Looks like his wardrobe is practically a black hole of uniforms, loungewear, and comfy tracks. However, Hinako does recall him wearing school uniforms to the supermarket and home on weekdays. But when around home and local friends, he is in his comfy tracks on off days. Thus, he cannot blame her for not noticing because they have never gone outside before, so he has to settle in for her surprise stares. So Hinako accepts that she has only seen Hakone in school uniform and his loungewear. Suddenly, the door swings open and Hinako barges inside his room, spooking the crap out of him as his jaw dangles on the ground. Hinako manages to scare the living crap out of this poor guy as she demands to see his clothes under the law, while acting like police. She orders him to show what he has saved up until now, leaving him sweating bullets. As soon as he comes out with hoops and stripes and rather ankle-showing pants, he finds himself sheepishly pulling out some old clothes. Taking one look at it, Hinako blurts out the need for shopping like a reflex without wasting a second breath over it. Shopping trip, like a whiny baby, Hakone asks if they seem that bad because she answers so quickly. Hinako expresses that it is not like the clothes are lame, so she asks when he bought them. Hakone remembers his sister, Suko, buying this for him a year ago, while complaining about how he is too indifferent about clothing, so she made him wear it. Upon learning that these are just hand-me-downs from his sister, Suko, a year ago, Hinako practically takes a long sigh. Taking a look at the overall size, she controls her laughter while muttering that he is a little too much for these clothes. Making him look at the sleeves that are too short, Hinako points at how he has definitely gotten taller, like a growing tree since then. Akon chuckles in embarrassment for outgrowing his clothes with time. Anyway, he sees Hinako get down on her knees and starts measuring him up and down, so he asks what she is trying to do now. She elaborates in getting the right size so they can shop easily later, while she excitedly calls for the shopping trip. Not to mention, he is probably going to outgrow them as well in no time while he finds Hinako to be a literal lifesaver. Stammering to let her know that he can measure his size by himself, as she does not need to do this much, and he mentions measuring himself at home, so it is not a biggie for him. But in her target-set eyes, she assures him in no way he can do it accurately. That is why his dress sizes are all messed up. She assures him it will be a real quick process, so before he knows it, she will be done sizing him up. Tapping his thigh, she asks him to take it easy and not to jolt back. Standing like a statue, she measures the size of his back, as she calls it his shirt length measurement. Moving on to the next, she asks him to lift his arms so she can do his inseams, while Akane is pretty exhausted due to stress from the whole ordeal. Taking a sigh of relief, he then gets happy about having some decent clothes for their aquarium adventure, or maybe even beyond. Moreover, with the tape she then tugs him to measure his chest, while making Akane fight for his breath, being near inches closer to herself. A little closer, as her heels take off, Akane starts breaking in sweat, as if feeling clammy all of a sudden, while seeing Hinako tighten his chest size. The lad wishes the ground would swallow him whole, or the black holes suck him in. Looks like Hinako's measuring tape might be having some ups and downs while doing his chest size. Especially when his heart seems to be pounding this bad, as if it is almost about to come out. The beads of sweat forming on his forehead, as he is feeling like the world stopped spinning, so he closes his eyes shut. Noticing his odd behavior, Hinako is reared out, so she mentions there's no need to be shutting his eyes for this. Noting them all down over her phone's notepad, she sends him over to his phone, while Akane is soaking over behind the couch like a little boy. Soaking through his shirt, he is fumbling with words, as he feels like a deer in headlights. With such messy hair, he is panting heavily over the corner, while believing that he just survived it. Not gonna lie, Hinako's just there noting down the sizes, while Akane is not exactly as thrilled as he was before. Dude looks as if he escaped a horror movie. His face shows to be surviving a missile launcher, rather than tape measure. Don't get me wrong, but Hinako's measuring routine has got his spine stressing out more than his final exam. As he is catching his breath, suddenly, Hinako eyes him from the side with a million thoughts aside. Hiding her face with her phone, she did not expect this little guy to be so built in with muscles, like a ready-made athlete. Feeling like her world stopping spinning, she is stunned to find someone who is a bookworm type of guy to be this fit. Anyway, Akane musters up the courage to stand and stop whining about it, while using spiritual awakening to counter this. Still a bit fumbling over his words, he mentions that even if they have gotten his sizes right, he still doesn't know two twats about the fashion. Knowing his size doesn't magically transform him into a fashion diva. He mentions being a virgin at picking a good outfit when he spends most of his life in a sack of potatoes. So he asks Hinako if she feels fine picking up something for him, as she got his measurement on lock. Upon hearing that, Hinako's jaw did full-on Burj Khalifa drop as her eyes went wider than a manga character surprised by some crazy plot twist. This girl just starts practically dancing inside her head, over getting such an opportunity while she vibrates with excitement. She learns that she is now his personal stylist or fashion police over the shopping trip. On the other hand, crossing his arms, Akane walks to the kitchen, as he blurts out to be making dinner now, while he sighs like a man facing the pile of dishes. Afterward, the cutest girl closest to Akane is tapping over her phone silently, while he chops up some ingredients for dinner tonight. Her excitement knows no bounds as she decides to get them some matching clothes for the aquarium trip. Imagining herself with Akane wearing matching clothes, she is dreaming about how cute they would like on a date. Not to mention, turning red as a tomato, she expresses that even her undies need some shopping to do. Shutting her eyes, she is not expecting to get any luck over this trip or anything. In fact, absolutely nothing at all, as she continues scrolling for some undies. Taking a sigh of relief, she believes that stuff like this is sort of a mood swing and nothing else. Unbeknownst to her soul, that Suko is playing fashion detective when Hinako is browsing online for some undies. Scrolling down to the undergarments section, a voice like a horror movie whispers to her ears. Shivering with Hinako's jaw dangling, Suko reminds her size is about E70. Hinako's soul almost left her body as she spun around, foam clutched to her chest seats Suko with a mischievous grin. Both of them get taken aback by the sudden appearance of Suko for being here all this time. Like, what are the odds of them colliding at the same time? Setting her eyes on the target, she asks Hinako if she has measured herself lately because she finds her soft melons to be rather big. Not gonna lie, Hinako's got some seriously impressive assets growing on with time. Hence fondling her chest, she asks for a measuring tape that was lying around somewhere here. Next thing is seen Suko rumbling for a measuring tape in the hall, ready to give Hinako some personal fitting session. Seeing this unfold before his innocent eyes, Akane almost burns the food while watching these two turn the heat up this place. A sudden deadly glare from his sister trembles this poor guy for peeping at their measuring session. When he is watching Suko tugging Hinako's chest with a measuring tape, she calls him a pervo. Seeing how his jaw dropped to the floor, she orders her younger brother to turn his eyes elsewhere before she gauges them out. But this man believes in personal boundaries, as he thinks they could have measured somewhere else rather than the living room. Talk about the awkward family moment here. A few days later, when the sky is still bright and blue with the clouds doing justice to the beauty of nature, it is a picture-perfect sight. Imagine this: clear skies, puffy clouds, and happy birds chirping through the morning melodies. Akane is setting aside his backpack, as if he is on some sort of a mission. Akane with his backpack set on the side, while he laces his sneakers while wearing contacts for the first time. Gotta look good today. He recalls his sister still snoozing even when the day's out, which works in his favor. So now's the time to sneak out quickly and quietly. Talk about a perfect time to set for a little adventure on the outskirts of the town. Carefully stepping outside like a ninja without making a hint of a sound, he slowly rushes towards the door while trying not to peep. When he almost reaches the door, a sudden voice freezes him on his tracks while electrocuting his brain right there. Looks like Soko, his elder sister, happens to be a real light sleeper unbeknownst to this poor guy. His shirt starts soaking up when the beads of sweat start washing his face in utter shock and embarrassment before anyone can say bust it. There she is, standing with her crossed legs against the wall. A knowing grin is playing over her lips. Seems like this man is only in need of prayer before his sister thumps the lies out, as if he is an almost empty ketchup bottle. She can sniff the lies out after a bakery churned out fresh bread. Stammering before her, he fumbles with his words as he mentions going out with a friend. Not gonna lie, this girl sure knows how to run a tight ship around home and at work. Akon is shivering in fear as he knows her sister's sharp intellect to figure this out instantly, but she smiles at his trembling soul. Who would have known his carefully planned out strategy would hit a major roadblock when he was so close to sneaking out safely? Oh well, at least Soko's smile gives off the alarm that she is not about to explode, or if it is the other way around. Let's see if Akon can rescue his ass from being roasted today or not. Setting the stage for a touch of romance and some dramatic flair, the audience eagerly awaited for this day. Hence the time has finally arrived for the aquarium date, much to everyone's patient anticipation. Inaka was all dressed up cutely in a black skirt and killer top that goes spectacularly with her earrings. With a little pouch dangling alongside her arm, she is looking like a total knockout. And honestly, this beauty is happily munching over a piece of fresh bread, unknowingly turning everyone's heads around, while being unaware that she is catching all the attention this world could offer her right now. The crowd that should go about their day starts chit-chatting about Hinako's presence as she is completely oblivious to the commotion she is causing. Not gonna lie, this girl, Hinako, is pretty much causing everyone to stop dead in their tracks, especially when they are crossing the road while being so carelessly drooling over her sight. They mistake her for some upper-class model with such a thin waist and pretty legs. Whispers are erupting from every corner of the street. Out of the blue, it catches her off guard when some guys try to get acquainted with her. These guys, finding a girl chilling alone, decide to shoot their shot, oblivious to who she belongs to. Regretting coming early just because she felt so excited, she hears these guys mumbling the cheesy pickup lines to bore her out. A black shirt guy asks if she is waiting for someone because she has been standing there for quite a while now. Moreover, he passes a lame compliment as he asks if she has time to have some fun, though Hinako passes a hint of being not interested. These guys surely don't seem to take a no for an answer. Looks like these guys have a head that is denser than a brick wall. How hard it is to get the hint that the girl doesn't buy their ugly scumbag faces. They ask her if she is waiting for the lucky guy, a friend, or a boyfriend perhaps. They are pushing their luck because a face like that would never get stood up in public. They even have the audacity to further try getting closer to her when she clearly feels uneasy around them. Trying to touch her like a creepy scumbag, he teases Hinako that if her girlfriend is coming, she can join this party as well. When Hinako states that she would rather stand alone here, she politely tries to shut them down, but the loafers are not handling rejection pretty well. When Hinako is about to lose it, a sudden grab on their shoulder as something sends chills down their spine. Bomb. Unbeknownst to them, the Grim Reaper is standing behind them to rip their soul apart for tainting Hinako-chan. Not gonna lie, these guys are hearing their bones crackle while hearing a voice cut through air like a ninja, turning around to see as if they have seen a ghost. Suko pulls these spineless street bugs aside. She asks if they could stop touching her with their filthy, tainted hands before she tears them anew. Though Suko's rocking her killer entry scene with her outfit that is heating up this corner, a look that could fire up some flames, and she is standing in a flowery tight skirt with a hot top while clenching a handbag. She gives these creeps a death stare, while she makes sure they keep their grubby mitts off Hinako-chan. Dazzled by Suko's charm, they get the reason behind their friendship when one guy finds Suko to be rocking this look. Looks like these clueless idiots are complimenting Suko as if she is some superhero dude with some solid punchlines and a gorgeous heroine to save. Thus she tells Hinako that it is time to leave, while those guys call out to Hinako that they can have fun along with her friend. Truth to be told, she doesn't like wasting time and effort over some pitiful losers. With that, Suko takes Hinako away from them, as she mentions to those slackers to find something better to do. Furthermore, she grabs Hinako's arms and leaves while announcing that they have a date to enjoy, so they ditch these spineless losers behind. Before the guys could utter another word, Suko charges ahead, leaving the scumbag speechless. It seems like Akin needs to come up with some series of excuses if he wishes to leave this turmoil in one piece. Thus for now the girls are the winners of this scene, as if they are charging ahead for their aquarium adventure, so those creeps can bother someone else. So the two goddess-like faces are rushing ahead to enjoy their day. Hinako, ever the sweetheart, suddenly asks the reason behind her startling appearance here, when she was not expecting her at all. Meanwhile, Akane is lost in the crowd like a loner sock stuck in a dryer forever. Thus he, a few steps behind them, gets lost in the race with his elder sister, who manages to reach the stage way before him. Not gonna lie, this guy surely misses a golden chance to be Hinako's knight in shining armor. Hence, he is frozen in the midst of the crowd, oblivious to where he should go next. A lost hand with nowhere to go, after tasting failure in saving Hinako-chan. Imagine the scene that could have worked when he swoops right in to let those scumbags know that she is on a date with none other than Akane. He just lost one good opportunity to flex before Hinako-chan as a savior, who would have known that his sister would flip some tables around to turn his date into hers. Aside from that, the crowd mutters how that freaky hot girl swoops in to save the model's face. She looks super duper cool, like a female version of a firefighter, always on time. Afterward, they are closing into the museum, and Hinako's excitement sure knows no bounds. They are heading towards the aquarium, when Hinako is bouncing like a 3-year-old waiting to pat some dolphins around. Amongst the crowd, there is some tension in the air, the loud silence between two people who are standing against the wall in an awkward stance. With all the murmur and chatter of the people, they seem to find solace in each other's side. Out of the blue, Hinako peeps at his side as she calls Akane's attention to her, who is turning flushy red when averting his gaze to her side. Suddenly, Hinako decides to break the ice to have some chit-chat before Tsuko joins them. Breaking this crazy tension between them after what went on with Tsuko, she cheerfully expresses how much Akane is rocking this look today. Akane, blushing like a tomato, tries to play it cool and asks if she is trying to butter him up. However, He gives credit to his stylist, Hinako-chan, whose sense of fashion is outright awesome. She giggles at getting praise from Akane. She thanks him for giving her such the high honor of being his personal fashion designer. Again, with this awkward silence and a rather loud crowd, they seem to be both flustering up beside each other. With a pink tint over his cheeks, he glances at Hinako's unearthly face, which makes him feel content in this mysterious atmosphere. The silence returns, but this time, it is filled with a different kind of tension as Akane steals a glance over her gorgeous face. However, her beauty takes his breath away every single time he tries stealing a glance. Seems like things are just getting a whole lot more interesting between these two with the addition of Tsuko, like the cherry on top. Gripping his backpack tighter, he ponders over the fact that a girl like Hinako has more friends than she could imagine. So why would she invite him? All of a sudden, passing a glance at each other, Akane could not seem to understand how Hinako would ask him out rather than his sister or anyone else. He asks if it is somehow a coincidence, or if she invites him because they often hang out together at home. Or else he gulps his saliva down with an even tighter grip. He wonders if it could be something he has been wishing for all these years. Not gonna lie, this poor guy Akane would save a lot of heart attacks if he just mustered up some courage to express his feelings to our favorite girl, Hinako. The only drawback to this is being chopped into pieces by his own sister, Tsuko, who has her heart already set on Hinako-chan. What kind of love triangle this man found himself into? Let's see how it goes for these three. A bolt from the blue, Tsuko's intent to kill does no justice to her appearing out of nowhere. Scaring the daylights out of poor Akane, he pants heavily as he catches his heartbeat to settle it down while Hinako welcomes her back wholeheartedly. And honestly, she always seems to be right under Akane's nose ready to fire his ass up on the ground. Like, what did this little guy ever do to her except prove to be the best live and butler since a small age? Man, these girls cannot let anyone catch some break. She asks his younger brother as to what he is getting all fidgety for. After Akane calms down beside Hinako, she gets happy to see her tickets for the aquarium as Tsuko hands them over to Hinako. Setting aside those tickets, Hinako bounces in excitement as she being ready to pat the dolphin and play some ball. Tsuko seems to be rather in businessy mood, so she asks Hinako about why she did not invite her in the first place. There is this awkward silence between all three of them that is filled with some crazy tension, and it gets intense with every minute passing by. Hence, Hinako is standing like a statue of a goddess who is apparently drawn the way when she hears shocking news of running out of toilet paper. Clenching the tickets, she is scrolling in her mind to find a better excuse to avoid any bad blood between Tsuko and her. Whereas, Tsuko and Akane are diligently waiting for her answer while she is on the verge of a panic attack. Dumping down her gaze in embarrassment, she decided to throw mud at Akane to save herself. Way to go. A bead of sweat slipped down her face as she called this all a complete misunderstanding. Not to mention, Hinako expresses how Tsuko seems all wrapped around a hectic schedule filled with assignments. So, she apologizes to her dear Tsuko for not getting any invitations to this aquarium adventure. Trying to actually apologize to Akane in her heart, she giggles awkwardly in front of both, while Tsuko blurts out the obvious that she can always free some time to hang out with her dear Hinako. Aside from that, Akane is relieved knowing that she does not have any feelings for him as he was hoping for, and honestly he got his hopes all high and mighty, on thinking if this actually could mean something, but that is just his head overthinking. Hence, Hinako awkwardly decides to jump aside to start their adventure. While Tsuko eyes her younger brother rather oddly as she orders him to get his ass into gear, she asks Akane what statement he is trying to make while standing around like that, while Akane has turned his don't expect anything mode on. Later on, Hinako's excitement is overflowing as she steps inside the aquatic heaven. Thus, Akane believes that watercolors glimmering over Hinako's skin make her look like an ocean princess or a mermaid. Whereas, Tsuko is enjoying this exhibit of gazillion fishes, who have come to meet and greet the humans. Being the woman of science, she already has a profound interest in everything that would touch the ground of science. Strolling ahead, Hinako points to every possible fish that she is aware of. This nerdy girl has read every aquatic life book while waiting wholeheartedly for this day to show off her knowledge about different breeds. On the other hand, Tsuko is making sure to lead his younger brother behind as she tries to take Hinako for herself. After a few minutes, Hinako asks Akane to take her picture with the shark behind her setting up their camera while the audience mistakes it with a photo shoot of a model, so they start clearing their way. Hinako asks if they are done yet, but Tsuko, like a director, is making some changes with the cameraman Akane. She asks him to lower the angle, and makes use of some reflecting light. Later on, Hinako-chan clicks some selfies with them both whenever she steals a chance. As Akane is about to take a bite, Hinako whiffs her camera out to click a carefree selfie right away. The dolphins are playing around, dancing together to showcase their art before the human world as Hinako claps in excitement for giving away such a rich performance. Seeing them both having their best laugh, Hinako is lucky to have these two around. Thus, Akane is rooting for her favorite dolphin, whereas Tsuko is sure of her victory. Hinako's laughter echoes through the hall. Afterward, Akane asks them to head on, as he mentions buying something for their parents from a gift shop. Though he thinks of picking something for his class, but he believes it to be rather painful if he has to explain who he ended up going with. Even when spending his whole day with Hinako, Akane cannot seem to stop himself from stealing a glance at her laughing with his sister. With a widened state of wonder, he is cooking up something in his head. Holding some gifts, she mentions to Tsuko about getting these for Aki and Ryo. But Tsuko reminds her that Ryo hates anything about chocolates, as she is one odd kid of her age. As his mysterious gaze does not seem to be interrupted at all, he continues to look at how magnificent Hinako is. Coming outside, Hinako exclaims she has never had this much for a long time. Each holding bags full of gifts, Akane asks Hinako if she is going home or eating at their home today. Fighting her temptation to eat Akane's handmade bites, she mentions going home for today. A sudden buzz over the phone takes Tsuko's attention away from them, as she moves ahead to receive her call. Hence, standing before Hinako-chan, who seems to be pouting as she asks for Akane's hand with a whisper. Dumbfoundedly standing with his phone, he has no clue what devious plot Hinako is whipping up. All of a sudden, she secretly puts a dolphin keychain on his hand, while hiding it from Tsuko. Speechless with a wonder-stricken face, he seems to be blown away with this cute gesture for him. He is utterly captivated by holding this keychain while he expresses having one for her as well. She finds herself flustered and awestruck, and she can't take her eyes off of it, as it is harder for her to figure out how this coincidence could even happen. Not to mention, they both pick the dolphin keychain with the same color and the same species. As if the universe is trying to talk through this moment, looks like these two are going to have fewer excuses to get away from each other. Because now the power of the universe is on its way to turn this around for our poor boy Akane. Besides that, Akane is utterly amazed at how this whipped out before them as if they are spellbound, while Hinako is not done with her jaw-dropping performance. Holding her little keychain, she passes a warm smile while exclaiming how glad this just made her. With that, she calls Akane's attention once more, but this time she swoops closer to his face. As their keychain bumps into each other, the two dolphins successfully steal a kiss. So lucky them, but less than an inch closer, Hinako asks him to keep quiet and keep this little secret just between them. Looks like Hinako just controlled her overflowing emotions, or else this girl is ready to steal a kiss from Akane right away. But she thinks of choosing this moment to be rather special some other day. Thus, Akane stands there like a good boy, who promises Hinako to keep this all a secret, while he blushes like a tomato. To top it all off, Hinako had one of the best times of her life with Akane, and additional guest, Tsuko. Though this is not a date, but she is still grinning happily for being able to experience such a thing. Out of the blue, Tsuko calls Akane's attention, which catches the poor guy off guard as he trembles hearing the Godzilla's voice. Then, she hands over her bags and asks him to reach home, because something came up and she has to leave on an urgent basis. A bolt out of the blue, a girl sprints towards this direction. She then jumps at Tsuko from behind, catching her off guard while slamming into her. She calls her Tsukiko-senpai, as she holds her waist rather tightly. Thus, Tsuko is trying to get away from Atsuji's hands, while both Akane and Hinako are stunned a few steps away. Atsuji is holding her arms and thanks her for coming for her, while Tsuko starts sweating a bit as she is feeling uneasy around this human. Not gonna lie, the triangle was not enough, that they added another character in this love spiral. Well, it at least would keep Tsuko busy for a long time. Though Hinako believes this girl to be really cute, Tsuko mentions leaving her stuff with him, so she bids farewell to Hinako-chan. Well, they both are still standing oblivious to what happened before them, as they watch Tsuko go ahead further. The little girl dares ask if there is a fine dinner nearby for none other than the devil, who chooses her own dining. Akane finds it rather amusing to see his sister walk on the path set by a little girl, as she expresses how anywhere is fine with her. Suddenly, Atsuji turns around to pass a final glance at the beauty Hinako is, as she passes a mischievous grin at her side. Hinako is rather dumbfounded and wonderstruck by her attempt to pass such a sleek grin, while Akane reminds her that they need to head home now. And this is where things are about to get as hot as the magma, and as shocking as a thunderstorm. Whereas Akane hears Hinako's silence and fixed attention on Atsuji where she says, "Who?" Seeing her utterly captivated by something, he is so stunned that he could faint just now, as he sees Hinako's smoky head. Blazing fire igniting her insides, she asks who the hell that tiny skank thinks she is, and where she just came from. Even more so, everything seems to be working all fine and right, until this new conflict just bubbled up between a new hot chick, Atsuji, and Hinako-chan. Later on, Atsuji is sitting around the bushes, tapping over her phone with a rather large smile on her lips. Not to mention, her primary choice to pick a university was theirs, with the addition of studying science. And hearing Hinako's tale, which seems to be almost nothing, other than Hinako's personal addition of dramatic flair in it. So to cut short, Akane believes her to be nothing but a student whom she is spying on a bit weirdly. She believes in getting Tsuko wrapped around her finger, while Hinako complains of feeling a bit left out. Not to mention, making matters worse, she happens to seem a little suspicious. Thus, she convinces Akane that there is more to it than meets the eye. Hinako chooses to be the detective to crack this case wide open. She has a mission to find Atsuji's reason for dealing with Tsuko, as she is spying on them from afar. Trying to make a subtle point, Hinako is exasperated about Tsuko, who goes out of her way to tutor this skank, even though she already has one hot job, when Atsuji is having the time of her life with Tsuko out there. Hinako is having a series of rejections for her outing ideas. Needless to say, she complains about how they are always hanging around, as well while mentioning the reason for being turned down by Tsuko this much. Recalling how Tsuko, on major occasions, turns down her plans for an outdoorsy evening over this skank. But Akane tries to reason with Hinako, as she cannot expect his sister to be ready every time she has a wish to go somewhere. Not the drama he signed for though. And honestly, Akane has no clue how he finds himself sandwiched between not two, but now three girls fiasco. Taking a long sigh, he calls his inner guru to man up. Though Hinako is all about whipping out a devious plan to cut her out of the picture, Akane refuses to be on board with her crazy call for crew members. Not only that, Hinako, a total knockout of a goddess, is worrying about some hot chick being really cute enough to take Tsuko away from her. Looks like someone needs to shake Hinako-chan up, not to worry over some cute side character and get stressed acne over this. Though Atsuji is a hot chick, like a walking feisty twist for this story. Let's see what is holding up for this character and Tsuko. While Hinako out here is pulling her hair off to figure out the skanks moreover, Tsuko exclaims how Tsuko's hearts flutter over some hardcore looks. So she tells Akane about the time in their first year of high school, when a junior girl confessed to Tsuko, and she was all on board with this just because the girl was cute. Although Tsuko forgot her name, she thought it could work with her pretty face. So if Atsuji's good looks are part of the equation, that depends on the time to tell. Sneaking out to follow them, Akane is questioning her choice of wearing a black hat for this occasion. Seeing her this pumped up, he believes her to be into this amusing situation just because of jealousy. Even in that hideous hat, Hinako never stops outshining others in the crowd while cutely sinking into the pool of jealousy. Taking a look at that short packet of evil, she promises herself to unleash her wrath on Atsuji if she tricks her best friend. Thus seeing her stepping closer to hug Tsuko, she cannot think but to send a nuke her way to obliterate this problem within a second. However, Akane finds that to be a rather good idea because in this way, they will all go happily home because he is exhausted through and through. Standing behind Hinako, he is asking himself why he is following them when he has no business standing here. Seeing how Hinako gets all jittered with nervousness when Atsuji grabs Tsuko's arm again, weirded out by this situation, he decides to leave home. Anyway, Akane, with his awakening mode activated, finds Hinako to be in a rather serious mood as compared to when she is with him. Thinking about how she is so jealous seeing those two, he believes he has no business tagging along. After a second, a sudden grabbing of his hand, Horror poor Akane as Hinako scares the daylights out of him. With that, she pulls him towards herself while muttering they must follow them ahead right away. Seeing her cute face under a hideous-looking hat, he gladly jumps on board with what crazy mission she has planned out for them. Being all flustered and crazy, she whispers to him that he needs to cut to a lower pitch. Later, they reach the cinema where the air is all filled with the smell of popcorn and Coca-Cola. Not to mention the food court beside the cinema, which has this crazy list of delicious meals all readying up. Sneaking up to them, they buy tickets to the movies but end up enjoying themselves in the end. As the both traumatic girls, Hinako and Matsuji are on the verge of tears, reaching out for tissues and a shoulder to cry on while the Igarashi siblings are handling their women. Crying on top of her lungs while twisting her ugly hat, she exclaims how sad the ending is. Thus, Akane asks Hinako if she would like his handkerchief as he watches her tear up with some marble-sized tears. Walking out of the cinema, Hinako thanks him for following her to the movie theater and handling her weepy ass. Not gonna lie, Akane has a golden opportunity to flex right now, but this dumb guy's spiritual awakening has got to be the problem that is in their way mostly. Someone needs to shake some sense into him, cause he is now alone with his first crush, who is sobbing over some movie. Though sharing a handkerchief looks to be a move only a gentleman would pull, that has earned some points for being a smooth operator. Strolling ahead, he watches Atsuji walking ahead with his sister, while Hinako complains about the desire and wanting to save humanity until her last breath. Amidst the crowd of couples who just came out to enjoy the movie, Akane finds every girl sobbing like a baby over the main character's tragic death. Looks like someone needs to tell women that it is all pictures and not real, but their chaotic flow of emotion doesn't do them justice. All of a sudden, Akane calls out Hinako-chan, who looks at him with her swollen, bubbly eyes while asking what is going on. With her hat back on her head, he points at those two heading on to the next thing. Seeing Atsuji pushing Suko inside the arcade, Hinako is having a hard time believing that someone like Suko would enter the premises of an arcade, gripping Akane's soldier to pull him aside when he is expressing how much stuff there is. Slamming it come against the wall, Hinako has pinned him down rather nicely for a girl while Akane has no clue what is about to go down. Looks like Akane has found himself in a trickster's hands against the wall. Man has left with no way of saving her life, especially when Hinako-chan is grinning at his poor harmless soul. This girl Hinako, the master of confusion, is leaving a shit ton of hints which are rather hard to get by. With some puffy pink cheeks, Hinako snaps Akane into a tight hug as she cries out about thanking him for staying with her. Not to mention, she taps his shoulder rather oddly, as if she is preparing her horse to be ready for the battlefield. Reaching out to counter, Hinako shows his list of desires as she spots a photo booth nearby. Bouncing with excitement, she stubbornly asks Akane to join her in it. Watching their photographs in the Polaroid, she wishes to make one her background photo while Akane starts wheezing. Truth to be told, Akane proves that the girls are insane while he mentions that the girls are utterly insane or have some screws loosened up from a young age. Afterward, prying inside a fancy restaurant which glimmered from the inside out as every corner seems to sparkle up the place. Atsuji loves this to be rather fancy for royalty, as it is perfect for someone like Suko and her. Though, Hinako is sitting behind in the corner with Akane, who is lost inside the menu. On the other hand, Hinako praises his taste in ordering such a delicious-looking meal. Akane's eyes sparkled when asking if she would want to try some. Opening her mouth wide open to get fed by Akane's hands, he hesitantly lifts a bite which has gotten rather heavy unlike any other time. Unbeknownst to them, what awaits her as she scolds Eken for not reaching home at all when she asks him to. Appearing before them, she startles these two while scaring the crap out of them as she asks what they think they are doing here. Taking their class on the spot, Suko flashes before them like some kind of superhero. Hakan asks his big sister, as she just came from nowhere before him. Hinako is left utterly dumbfounded as she gasps while mesmerized by the scene as she mentions feeling a jolt of shock run past him. However, Hinako was on a mission to tail them, but unbeknownst to her, got so busy with Eken that she forgot halfway through that she had some business to attend to. Furthermore, Hinako asks if she picks up their trail just now, finding this question rather amusing before the Tsuko the devil, who is making both of them flustered up. Chuckling over their pitiful faces, she expresses how she has noticed them since, from the start of their devious plans. All of a sudden, she finds Hinako crazily turning around to find someone or something, while making Hakan worry about her head. With that, Tsuko exclaims of sending Atsuji back home, and that is why she stood before them, ready to coach some manners. On the other hand, Tsuko is dying to know the reason behind tedious hate sitting over Hinako's head while Hinako asks for some time to catch her breath, passing a rather deadly, annoyed stare at them, as she asks what has gone wrong with these two. And honestly, Hakan shook his head, while feeling Tsuko's blood running cold as he felt it wrecking the tension in the air. But to his surprise, he expresses that for all this time, he mentions not being the one Tsuko is looking for. Coming all clean, Hinako lays her feelings down as she believes Tsuko is being taken away by someone else like Atsuji. Standing before Hinako, she expresses how Tsuko is hardcore into beauty, so Atsuji happens to be rather cute more than any other. Moreover, Hinako expresses his jealousy over the fact that even if she is the #1 girl in her eyes, she can't stand seeing her stand with Atsuji. Taking a long sigh, she exclaims that this Atsuji girl is actually her professor's daughter. Not to mention, Tsuko tells Hinako that her professor specially asked her to tutor his daughter properly, so she has to pay extra attention to her. So she has read about positive reinforcement and reward strategies. She believes that she would work twice as hard if she put an alluring object over the table with some rewards. So she is meeting her outside for a long time. Not to mention, she had some serious talk with Atsuji just before that hanging around like this isn't appropriate for their student-teacher bond. All of a sudden, she squishes Hinako's cheeks. As she tries to fumble with her words, she chuckles to see Hinako's jealousy. To top it all off, Tsuko makes sure Hinako understands that even if she finds herself into hardcore beauty standards, hence she knows that a good face would never mean someone's a good person. With that aside, Tsuko's touching words open the eyes of Hinako with a snap, making her tear up before her, cheerfully passing a warm smile to her face when she admits wholeheartedly that she likes hanging around Cake Hinako because she likes her as a person. Hinako's eyes are left bewildered, while she forgot to grasp as a jolt of shock runs through her when she is utterly speechless before them. A few blushed puffs on her cheeks, as she calls out to Tsuko for loving her this much. She suddenly grabs Saki in a tight hug, explaining to her that she loves her as her heart pounds over Tsuko's chest. Hakone is enjoying this scene from a far corner. All of a sudden, he again remembers that he does not belong in this business, and his gaze refuses to avert when he sees Hinako embracing Tsuko in a hug. As he is about to leave, someone grabs his shirt, scaring the daylights out of him, as he sees the tiny monster who is the reason to start this ruckus in the first place. Seeing how she has the nerve to pull him aside, he asks her what is wrong with her and why she hasn't left home. Ignoring his existence just like the other two, she only seems to be interested in Hinako-chan. So Hakone is scratching his head to cut it short for her, as he mentions to her about them being school besties since middle school. Learning that this bond goes way back, she finds herself with nervous jitters, realizing that her enemy is rather stronger than she thought she would be. On the other hand, she mumbles about how she was warned by Tsukiko-senpai, but she refuses to give up just like that. Out of the blue, this tiny hot chick asks for Akon's contact number, while leaving him nearly choke on his own spit as his eyes bug out of her head. With that, she introduces herself as Sarah Asuji, as Ikam ponders over the fact that she added him so fast. Hoking his glasses back while helping him be attentive on the ground, running away, she expects Ikam to help her out this time. Thus, standing in a fairway corner, he doesn't understand what just unfolded before his eyes and how he ended up being Atsuji's savior for her love life. Especially when his love life seems to be all over the place, he stands there rather quietly with a gazillion thoughts taking up the space over his head. Seeing those two patching up and hugging it out, Hinako spots Akon coming their way, who seems rather exhausted. She asks him, where did he run off to so suddenly? Getting closer to them, he explains how he was pulled into Sarah's shenanigans, as Tsukiko learns that she was still around, being a little spy. Thus, Hinako is a bit weirded out by Akon calling Atsuji by her first name, so he mentions that she just added him online so suddenly that it took him some time to connect the dots. One shock after another, Hinako's aquarium date has just turned into a bit of a dramatic opera show as Tsukiko feels a change in her voice. It is quite strange for her to see Hinako be so flustered by Akon using someone's first name. Getting edgy so abruptly, her eyes are bugged out of her head, as she felt like her brain is about to short-circuited as she hears that skank's name again. Akon is floored to see her this frustrated over something like that, as Hinako couldn't believe her ears hearing that loafer's first name from his mouth. Gritting her teeth so hard, she screams at Akon for being such a dummy, while Akon nearly chokes on his own spit, oblivious to what he did wrong in this scenario. On the other hand, Sakiko does agree with Hinako that he really does not learn, even if he is her younger brother. Later the next day, when it is raining cats and dogs, Akon is sweating bullets over handling something. He then wipes away some beads of sweat from his face as he expresses how this is all done. Akon seems to be in a rather tidy mood as he clears out some mud on the rug. Look like his live and butler soul just woke up out of nowhere and decided to suck out every last bit of sand out of this house. Not to mention, organizing through every corner, he has neatly placed and dusted away all the visible corners of the house. Suddenly his gaze falls over the clock, which jump-starts his motor running, when he realizes Hinako-chan is going to come here soon, scaring the crap out of his living soul. He remembers Hinako saying that she would arrive at 7 ohms clock, praying to his butler's soul to speed up twice as much because they have to wrap up. On the other hand, Hinako, the shining beauty in a black top and shorts, with a coat over, is reaching closer and closer to Akon's house. However, she is daydreaming about how she has finally crammed all the names of media's members, names, and faces. Not to mention, she can now talk all night and day with Akon while following his conversation, as media's is Akon's favorite K-pop group. Thus, recalling his argument about how Taiho seems to be the best one than media's, he gets all heated up when someone messes it up for him. Not gonna lie, who would have known, a girl with a face like this would care about what this lousy MC would like or not like. Needless to say, none of them have even a tinsy bit of clue as to how they feel about each other. Only if someone from his school burst this bubble before Hinako. But no lord would be able to save Akon from Suko's wrath if that happened. Arriving home with a warm smile playing over her lips, she gladly yells that she is coming in, as the door behind her gets closed with a thud. Unfortunately, there is no one to receive our girl, Hinako, who is utterly clueless as to where everyone has vanished. Calling out to Akon, she is met by none other than loud silence, which seems to creep her out, as it never happened like that before. However, she continues ahead as she twists the doorknob to find if anyone is home. She thought Akon would at least be here. Walking to the study room, Hinako takes out her boots over the shelf, thinking he might be tucked in to do some studying. But she believes him to usually show his face to greet her every time she comes around. But this time it is rather unlikely of him to not do this. Furthermore, she opens all the closed doors to figure out what is wrong around here, while thinking maybe he is not home. As soon as she barges in with puckered lips, she enters the door, where Akon bursts the party poppers to wish Hinako a very happy birthday. Taken aback by such a rich surprise, Akon's sudden appearance makes her jump a mile high. The smile quickly surfaces over her lips. Her initial shock at this surprise melted away, as she sees how much Akon cares this much to pull it off. When Akon's voice shattered the silence as he wished her a happy birthday, her world whirls around as tears welled up in her eyes, with the surprise unfolding before her eyes. Standing frozen before him, a surprise scream leaks out of her mouth as Akon exclaims of getting her trick so easily. Moreover, with a huge smile, Akon congratulates Hinako for turning 20 this year. However, she remembers Tsuko being wrapped around a crazy hectic schedule, so they decided to do it next week, and Akon agreed with that plan. But she asks what this is all about, and then Akon explains how she seems to be coming over anyway. So he thought of planning something for such an occasion, to dial up some crazy for her birthday. Needless to say, it was her special day after all, so he couldn't ignore himself doing nothing over this day. A surprise laugh escapes his lips as he takes to the scene, his heart overflowing with warmth for Hinako-chan. All of a sudden, Hinamo's chaotic energy forces her to embrace Akon in a tight hug, but Akon, already expecting this to happen, ducks down. Swooping over his side, she yells that she loves him so much, while Akon manages to dodge again because he learned with time. Not gonna lie, pulling off a birthday surprise with poppers and decoration has melted Hinako, who is reaching out for some handkerchief. Further ahead, Akon shows the way to the dining table, where Hinako is jolted away by seeing so many dishes untouched on the table. She exclaims if he has made this all by himself with zero to no help. Her hand is flying to her mouth in disbelief, chasing Hinako's world to whirl around while her eyes widen with shock. All of a sudden, she whips out her phone to snap some photos of the decorations, But who would have known Atkun took care of every single job, all by himself? As she blurts out saying holy moly, while blushing with puffy pink cheeks, she is all flowered up, while Atkun expresses that it is her day, so she can eat as much as she wishes. With her voice stammering before him, her eyes cannot seem to stop welling up in her eyes, unfolding a mixture of shock and horror for him. Not to mention, she expresses that he has done more than he should have, as she exclaims he might have busted his ass to come up with so many dishes. Hence Atkun, scratching his face, shares his dilemma about finding it hard to come up with ideas for her birthday initially. But then he mentions sharing her troubles with a friend in his cooking class, as she dares to ask him what is new with him. As soon as he mutters that he wishes to celebrate someone's birthday, he is short on ideas of how to make it special, which seems to be keeping him awake at night. However, the girls in the school have the ears of a bloodhound as they rush in to join this birthday campaign to help Atkun around. Upon reaching his shelf, all the girls are flustered while they make sure it is the birthday of that hot girl that called him by his first name. Flocking together, one by one with their own series of questions, one girl asks if he is thinking of pulling this celebration over his house. Just after that, he explains after chattering for some 10 minutes, he ended up with lots of ideas, written down for his ease. However, he shares how he ended up drowning in further dilemmas, as he couldn't seem to narrow them down because they just multiplied their number. While she is pouting about hearing so many girls helping Atkun around to fix up a birthday for her, she confirms if these are from his club. Furthermore, Hinako-chan asks him the reason behind joining a cooking club when he had many more options, when the bead of sweat washes over his face as he holds chopsticks. She then confirms if he was a basketball player in his middle team, and she remembers him being this good in his game. So why the sudden change to the cooking club? Holding the chopstick, even she is baffled to see him all flustered when she asks if there is someone he likes there. Hitting a curveball, Hinako has got him strangled from every side, as he expected this to never reach such a position. His jaw drops to the floor, and Atkun finds himself sweating bullets because he is appalled by the way this conversation is leading itself. Fumbling with his words, he hesitantly declines anything like that ever happening, but she mentions this club being full of girls. However, Hinako refuses to leave this subject like this, as she believes he would no way join a place like that for no reason. Thus, Atkun continues to sweat enough to soak his shirt, as this guy is about to have a whole different kind of wet dream as he puffs his cheeks up. He asks if she really has to touch that line, while Hinako blindly stares at his scaredy ass. Aside from that, he mentions since Hinako started coming here, it has become a habit to have dinner with her, which takes her by surprise. So, averting his gaze away in embarrassment as he blurts that he just wanted to cook something better and nice for this occasion. On top of that, he exclaims how it would be just an adequate amount of fine with Suko around, but he wished to do more than that. Suddenly, his jammed-up brain remembered that he had forgotten to take the soul out of the oven. On the verge of tears, Hinako could not seem to process how to take this, as she couldn't believe her eyes that someone would go out of their way to do so much for her. Sighing over the table as she hides herself in shame, she expresses it to be not fair at all. Afterward, with a heavy bumpy stomach, she takes a long sigh as she slumps down on the couch, as she finds the food to be so heavenly. She complains about eating too much now that everything is reaching her throat, while Akan pours some coffee for her. Moreover, Hinako expresses how her sigh is out of pure satisfaction. So Akan thanks for her indirect praise, and he glances at her way rather innocently when he sees her mumbling about finding this celebration so good. He blushes like a flushed red tomato as he calls Hinako's attention, and she hands over a present for her while averting his embarrassing gaze away. Thus, he is grateful for her sister to be this busy, to miss the sight of him being all red over the face. Startling her enough to jump a mile high from the couch, she screams with her jaw drops to the floor. Akan presents her gift, as if she is some kind of a warlord over the throne. Adding to that, he mentions his sister Tsuko's present is due next week, so this one's for him. Like a little kid, she begs Akan to give her permission to open it right away, while Akan gives her a green sigma. There are chopsticks in her hand, so Akan explains how she always ends up using disposable pears lying around or borrowing Tsuko's, so he thought that after how much time they spend together, he would rather want her to have her own pair of chopsticks here. Unbeknownst to her, this has caught Hinako in shock, as she could not believe him to be this deep. So Akan calls himself an idiot for not giving her the time of her dinner, so she could have used it for the first time. Suddenly, he apologizes while asking if another piercing could have been better. But to his surprise, passing a warm smile, Hinako finds herself content, as she expresses how glad she is to receive this as a gift. Putting the gift close to her heart, she thanks Akan for being this thoughtful. A wave of pure joy settles inside Hinako, as she realizes the efforts Akan has put out through the day. For a moment, Akan finds himself frozen to the point that it takes him a while to snap out of this. Out of the blue, Hinako screams on top of her lungs while holding the chopsticks like that, as Akan asks if there is supposed to be some storm tonight. Hinako gets startled by the thunderstorm outside, fluttering their hearts out. Flashing the TV on as they are rushing to check the news headlines or any warnings. They are appalled to learn about the heavy rainfall with a storm warning, while she wonders if she could make it home tonight. On second thought, Akan asks if she could stay for the night, as to which Hinako believes she definitely should, or else she could get herself barbecued tonight. Later, as she comes out with a towel wrapped over her wet hair, she calls out that the next turn would be for Akansama. As she reaches in closer, he shares how the trains are closed and cannot run in the storm warning. So Tsuko cannot apparently come home apparently. And honestly, with this startling weather, it is highly unlikely that she would fetch a cab in this weather. So the only option she has is to crash the night at some nearby hotel. Out of the blue, Hinako squishes his cheeks while exclaiming that they have a house for themselves, as a little water drop falls over his face. Hitting the shower, he sulks down the drain while cursing his fate for ruining his lifetime's worth of practice to control his feelings for Hinako. So the universe cannot seem to stop playing with his tiny heart, as it is now putting them both together alone for the night. The poor guy keeps pondering over his cursed-up fate that would not let her have her, but keeps on pushing him at her. Needless to say, he would want to chat with his Cupid to dial down the crazy, because there is a limit that even he can handle. Thus, he sees Hinako all cozying up on the couch as she stares at the chopsticks silently. Seeing him in the corner, she welcomes him back, so Akan asks if she likes having them. Hinako gives away a bright smile, nodding that she is honored to have something so precious. Moreover, she carefully shares that this is her first time owning her chopsticks pair. This catches Akan off guard while asking how this could be possible, and honestly, she mentions having no such thing as chopsticks around at home. Hence, they could utilize the old cutlery they had set in the cupboard. Not to mention, she expresses how bad her mother was at cooking, so they usually would get takeouts and deliveries from outside. This is the reason she always looks rather okay with using disposable ones. Strangely, Akan finds it rather odd to use the disposable chopsticks at home so casually. With that, Hinako starts pouring her heart out as she explains her family's unsymmetrical lifestyle. Starting from her parents, who love their job a lot even if they are still close, it has been like this for a long time. Not to mention, their lifestyles are just too different, as they are two pieces of puzzle that do not fit together. So having troubles like that, they never get to enjoy a meal with each other over the table as a family. So she chuckles over the fact that it has been like that since she was a kid. Not like she felt like a loner wolf or anything, she mentions just growing up like that. Though taking a look at chopsticks, she always wishes to have something like these, as she exclaims of never forgetting this feeling. So showing her utmost happiness fluttering her cheeks, she tells him how glad she is to know him. And honestly, she promises to take care of this gift for life, and take it to heart. Hearing her words in such regard, his cheeks puff up with a pink tint as he blushes to see her holding onto this gift so hard. So with the beads of sweat washing over his face, he is glad that she likes them. Taking a long sigh, Hinako proceeds to lay her head over his shoulder to enjoy the sound of rain pouring outside. Furthermore, she expresses how Akan feels so warm at this point, while he is lost with words and unable to speak up. Hinako continues to mention how he made a space for her so easily here, as if he is assuring her that it is okay to stay here. Trying to control himself from overflowing her emotions, he fumbles with his words as he mentions that it is just like they are a family. A sudden tug on his side, as her chest squishes on his chest, Hinako asks if he finds this to be okay to live like that, his heart pounding enough to thump his ribcage, as if it is wishing to set itself free. When Hinako continues to reach closer to his lips, he mutters her name while holding onto his chest. A sudden slam over the door sends their soul a mile high, as a beast with heavy stomps arrives home dripping all wet. Hinako screams her name, while Tsuko orders her to quiet down a bit as she is already frustrated. She expresses how it sucked for her as she practically dived her way home. However, she actually has an assistant professor to drive her home at this hour. Setting her hair aside, she commands her live-in butler to serve her with some food while Hinako rushes in to grab a towel. Calling out to his brother, she tells him that she had the option to stay home, but she went anyway. With a mischievous smirk playing over her lips, she whispers that he owes her one. After this, Hinako badges in to hand Tsuko a towel, while Aiken's soul decides if it is the right to leave the body. Finally knowing that his sister knows it all, he is sure about never winning against this mastermind.